The film begins with a young man named Jin Su who finds himself drowning in debt after trusting a friend who promised to open a store with him. Desperate to fund the venture, Jin Su borrowed money from loan sharks, ultimately handing over all his earnings to his friend. However, the friend turned out to be a con artist and took everything away. Now, Jin Su owes 900 million won to the loan sharks, who are growing impatient to recover the amount. The weight of his financial burden and the imminent threats from the loan sharks loom over him like a dark cloud, setting a tense and desperate tone for his life. To pay off his massive debt, Jin Su takes on various part-time jobs, from working in small shops to cleaning windows on skyscrapers. He aspires to secure higher-paying jobs, but doesn't have the required skills for those roles. Overwhelmed by stress, he decides to end his life. He heads to a bridge, intending to jump and escape from his troubles. But just as he stands on the edge, ready to leap, a notification on his phone pulls him back from his decision. The notification reveals messages showing hefty deposits of 4 million into his bank account, along with instructions to get into a vehicle. Moments later, a limo pulls up in front of him. With nothing to lose, Jin Su decides to get in. The car then takes him to a mysterious theater. Inside the theater, Jin Su finds a table with a few numbered cards and an envelope. The envelope contains a letter explaining that he will be paid to participate in a game which doesn't require any specific skills. During his time as a contestant, all food and accommodation will be provided. The longer he stays in the game, the more money he can earn. When the timer runs out, the game ends, but the game also terminates if a participant expires. Initially, Jin Su thinks it might be a light-hearted prank show where people earn money by doing silly things on air. He is also given the option to walk away, with cab fare covered. However, he decides that his current life isn't worth much with his minimum wage rate, so he chooses to join the game. He picks the card marked with the number 3, officially becoming a participant. Upon stepping into a studio with 8 levels, Jin Su notices a timer set for 24 hours in the lobby. His card grants him access to the 3rd floor, where he finds a simple room furnished with a scoreboard, an intercom system, cameras, a screen displaying fake surroundings, a uniform, and a book detailing the rules. The digital scoreboard in the room keeps track of the money he earns over time. During his time in the studio, Jin Su has to store away his personal belongings and wear the provided uniform. He can purchase items staying in his room. The cost will be deducted from his prize money at 100 times the market rate. He is required to stay in his room from midnight to 8 a.m. and cannot obstruct the cameras. Breaking any rules results in losing half of his prize money. Jin Su, who is cold by that time, considers buying a blanket but is shocked to see it priced at 1 million. He chooses to settle for cheaper options since he is used to living in poverty. Instead of the expensive blanket, he buys discarded newspapers and cardboard boxes to sleep on. Furthermore, with no bathrooms available inside the establishment, the participants had to come up with methods to get rid of their waste. The following morning, Jin Su encounters 7 other participants in the lobby, each referred to by their floor number instead of their names. Each person possesses unique characteristics. 1F limps, 2F is rude, Jin Su is 3F, 4F is cautious, 5F seems to be a peacemaker, 6F is indifferent, 7F is logical, and 8F is pampered. As they gather, they notice the timer has increased to 35 hours. Additionally, they realize that all the items in the lobby, including their uniforms with fake pockets, are merely props. In the current situation, their primary concerns revolve around food and waste disposal. Considering this, one of them proposes purchasing goods from the lobby. Without hesitation, 6F immediately demands a lighter and a cigarette. Meanwhile, 4F checks her money on the scoreboard. Upon doing so, they realize that buying items from the lobby reduces the timer rather than the money displayed on their scoreboard. This observation becomes evident when 6F purchases the cigarette and lighter, resulting in a 2-minute decrease in the timer. Subsequently, Jin Su performs a quick calculation, determining that a minute is worth 2,500, and concludes that if they continue spending their time purchasing goods, the game will conclude shortly. Following their discussion, they swiftly gather as a group to acquire essential items. Understanding that everyone has unique needs, they engage in a lengthy discussion to determine their purchases. Ultimately, they settle on buying buckets, toilet paper, sanitary pads, plastic bags, and cigarettes, as these items appear to be essential for everyone. In attempting to address the food issue, 8F discloses that she received 12 meal kits, but because she couldn't take them outside of her room, she was unaware of the sharing requirement. After some deliberation, they considered using a chute to deliver food to the lower floors. To guarantee fair distribution, they decide to go up to the 8th floor. As they enter 8F's room, The participants are astonished by its lavishness compared to the others. To their surprise, they discover that 8F's prize money increases at an astonishing rate per minute. This revelation leads them to understand that each contestant's pay rate is different, depending on their floor. In the following scene, we delve into the story of 8F, who happens to be the second participant in the game. Upon entering the lobby, she appeared to be extremely excited. However, her excitement led her to impulsively jump into the fake pool, resulting in an accidental broken nose. As the game commenced, she started earning 340,001 per minute, and indulged in purchasing luxurious items to adorn her room. Despite spending all her money, she earned it back while she slept. In the present moment, 7F discovers that the prize money follows the Fibonacci sequence, renowned for generating the golden ratio. As they explore each room, they notice them getting progressively smaller. While some members are upset by this, the 8F enjoys the trampoline in the lobby. 7F tries to defuse the situation by reminding everyone of their common goal, which is to stay in the game as long as possible. Additionally, he proposes a new food arrangement in which everyone chooses one meal, and the leftovers are put on the first floor for sharing. Chaos erupts when 8F spends all their time buying clothes, leaving only 13 minutes. Panic ensues among the group. 2F confronts her for using up all their time. In response, she claims the timer can be extended using the stairs, but demands an apology from 2F for being rude. Despite a standoff, 1F starts running up the stairs, and everyone follows him. They continue going up and down the stairs until the timer runs out. To everyone's surprise, the timer resets to 24 hours. 8F knows this as she had spotted the timer increasing when they were doing their room tour. As the day ends, 7F shares his belief with 3F, stating that the game operators likely want them to fight with each other, and that their only chance of winning is through cooperation. The next day, they all begin running the stairs to extend the timer, but the daily food kits prove insufficient to maintain their energy. Hence, they decide to split into 2 teams and take turns walking the stairs. The team on the stairs receives the leftovers. They use odd and even numbers to divide the teams, but 2F refuses to be with the evens because of 8F. 1F steps in to replace 2F. On the other day, 1F falls off the stairs and injures himself. While he is resting, 6F insults him for wasting time, and even twists his arm. This act shocks everyone, leading 2F to take 1F's place. Whenever 1F struggles with his injured leg, the others consistently try to cover for him. To ensure fairness, 4F instructs him to give his portion to Jin Su. Since 8F eats very little, 2F points out that their team, however, receives an extra portion. Upon hearing this, the group that had climbed the stairs heads straight to get dinner, leaving Jin Su without a meal. Everyone insists that 1F eat his portion, which makes him feel guilty for Jin Su. Since everyone is filling in for 1F, he decides to take on a different role within the team. He decides to store everyone's waste in his room. As a result, they create a new system. 8F's leftover food is divided among the rest. 2F substitutes whenever she can because of her strength, and 1F manages the waste storage. When all the participants gather for lunch in his room, the odor is so overwhelming that they can hardly swallow their food. One day, Jin Su joins 7F, who observes that the timer has been steadily decreasing each day despite their consistent stair climbing. Suddenly, while everyone is resting, 10 minutes are added to the timer. Confused and realizing they have very little time left, they all start climbing the stairs again. But it doesn't significantly increase the timer. They continue running until midnight, yet the time only goes up by 10 minutes. When they discover the timer doesn't reset the next morning, they all start running frantically. Suddenly, 4F has an unexpected seizure, creating an urgent need for medication. However, 6F refuses to get the medication, arguing it would waste their remaining time. When 2F tries to use the intercom, 6F becomes physical, insisting that 4F won't pass out from a seizure. This leads to everyone rushing to stop 6F and place the medication order, resulting in a fight. They all pause when they hear 8F laughing. She points out that 40 hours have been added to the timer. At that moment, 7F realizes that the show's success depends on entertainment. In the next scene, we learn that 7F is the third participant to join the game. He comes across as a composed and serene individual. Upon entering the game, he immediately tries to check the other players' rooms, but the keys don't work, so he goes to his own chamber. After a while, he calculates his earnings per minute and adjusts his room to his liking. Returning to the present game scenario, the participants realize that in order to extend their timer and increase their prize, they need to keep entertaining the show operators. Jin Su attempts to entertain by doing a mukbang, but it doesn't seem to extend the time. He is interrupted by 7F, who asks for ideas to entertain the operators and also expresses admiration for Jin Su's behavior. Additionally, it's revealed that he doesn't send his waste to 1F's room, which earns him Jin Su's trust. They then gather all the participants in the lobby to discuss different strategies for entertaining the audience. Each participant suggests different ideas, including wrestling, comedy, dating shows, and a talent show. After considering all options, they decide to go with the talent show. 7F goes first, playing a flute with his nose. Everyone is impressed, and the timer also extends by 20 hours. After his performance, he suggests that they need to decide when to end the game. 5F proposes that 1F should make the call since he earns the least. 1F states that he needs $1 billion, which means they need to stay in the game for 2.5 months. After agreeing on the game's duration, everyone starts buying props for the talent show. For the talent show, everyone has an idea except Jin Su, who is unsure of his talent. The show begins with 5F singing a melodious song, earning 10 hours. 6F breaks tiles, securing 15 hours, and 2F joins in by breaking tiles and performing high jumps, adding 17 hours. Jin Su notices that she hurts her hand and shows concern for her. She replies that her swollen hand will be fine in a few days. 4F tries singing, but it doesn't work, so she acts cute in front of the camera, earning a total of 65 minutes. Jin Su, unsure of what to do, dances awkwardly and secures only 18 minutes. He thinks that 1F will do worse, but he surprises everyone with his clown tricks, earning 30 hours. Finally, for 8F's turn, she claims her talent is in bed and asks 7F to join her, but he declines. She then picks 6F, who immediately agrees. Together, they put on a show and secure 69 hours. After the talent show, 1F asks about holding everyone's waste in his room, as it has reached its capacity, and they aren't running anymore. No one volunteers to take over, so 4F proposes selecting one room as a shared bathroom and suggests voting on whose room to use. She adds that this event could also increase their time in the game. Reluctantly, everyone agrees to vote. Jin Su worries they'll choose him since he was last in the talent show, and 4F is also a bit concerned. Being second last, 4F starts manipulating others, beginning with 5F, to vote for 1F, thinking he might be used to the smell. When 5F disagrees, she tries to put 8F in the spotlight. She also visits Jin Su and 7F on the 3rd floor, trying to convince them to pick 8F. Meanwhile, 6F visits the 3rd floor, making her worry about being caught. Fortunately, 6F takes 7F out and manipulates him to vote for Jin Su. 4F is worried about 7F's vote, but Jin Su assures her to trust him. 4F also tries to talk to 2F, but she doesn't want to listen and makes her leave. 6F also tries to convince 2F to vote for Jin Su. After everyone has voted, it's time to tally the results. The first vote is for Jin Su, which makes him panic a little. It is revealed that 5F didn't vote for anyone, leaving her slip empty. The votes tie between Jin Su and 8F before the last vote, which is yet to be counted. The last vote, however, is for 8F, prompting Jin Su and 4F to do a little dance of relief. Surprisingly, even 8F enjoys the moment, claiming that she won the voting game, asking the others to applaud for her. Everyone is shocked by her reaction, but they applaud her nonetheless. Jin Su then expresses concern about the 3rd vote for him, as he was only expecting 2 votes, from 6F and 8F. He questions 7F the same, who just tells him to let it go since the decision has already been made. The flashback reveals that the 6F, 8F, and 7F all voted for Jin Su, a truth Jin Su remains unaware of. Shortly after the voting process, 4F needs to use the toilet, but 8F refuses to give her the key. Everyone is confused and tries to explain the voting rules and the decision to her. 8F claims to understand but doesn't care. She escalates the situation by taking all the food for the day and leaving empty kits for the rest. In the next scene, we see 4F as the first contestant for the show. After reading the letter in the envelope, she initially chooses card number 8. However, due to her indecisiveness, she returns and picks card 4 before entering the lobby. In the present, everyone is struggling without food and water. Their misery serves as entertainment for the audience, which causes the timer to increase. Desperate for sustenance, 4F bangs on 8F's door, but receives no response. Meanwhile, in the lobby, 5F starts hallucinating that 8F is bringing food and water to them in the lobby. Unable to endure the situation any longer, 2F wants to end the game and return to the outside world rather than starving. 6F tries to stop her, but she doesn't listen. She seems resolute until 1F catches her leg and begs her not to do it. Meanwhile, Jin Su can't bear the thought of facing the lone sharks if he leaves the game. To help resolve the situation, He agrees to store the waste in his room, setting 8F free from the voting decision. 4F also volunteers to take half, since she didn't secure much time during the talent show either. Seeing the need for further action, 7F steps up and goes to convince 8F. She agrees easily, on the condition that she can buy clothes with the time in the lobby. While everyone tries to please her, 2F doesn't like the decision. However, 7F assures it's a good deal, as it prevents her from finding worse ways to make them suffer. That day, everyone gets their meal as usual. Jin Su now collects the waste bags from every participant except for 1F and 2F, who graciously refuse to send their waste to him. However, he is overwhelmed by the amount from the others and begins to wonder if 4F is even taking her share. It turns out she isn't. The following day in the lobby, 8F suggests playing a game to entertain the audience and increase the timer. She introduces a game called King Games, where they anonymously select numbers at random. The person chosen as king then asks 2 participants to perform dares. As the game progresses, it becomes more intense and crazy. In the 3rd round, 8F receives the king ball and demands that number 2 and 7 share a deep kiss. Participant 2F, however, refuses to accept the dare, so 8F then challenges 2F to fight 6F instead. The fight begins, revealing that 2F is a skilled fighter while 6F stands no chance. But because of the prior injury she sustained at the talent show, 2F's injured hand gets worse during the fight, as she delivers a misdirected punch. Seizing the opportunity, 6F relentlessly beats 2F. 8F refuses to intervene unless 2F surrenders, but 2F is unable to speak anymore due to her injuries. The male participants attempt to stop 6F, but are unable to. After the incident, the team agrees to avoid violence. 4F suggests a new form of punishment, that is, if someone refuses to perform a dare, they will be punished with a taser, which she claims will give only mild shocks. That night, Jin Su spends half of his time worrying about the possibility of being selected and having to endure the punishment. The next day, they gather in the lobby to play the same game. 8F gets the king ball again and dares Jin Su to touch 5F under her shirt. Jin Su refuses and is punished with the taser, causing him to pee his pants as he slides down. The king roll alternates between 8F and 4F. When 4F becomes the king, she has 2F and 6F choose a side of a coin. 2F picks hearts and 6F picks stars. 4F tosses the coin and it lands on stars, so 2F gets tased. In the next round, 8F is the king again and dares 2F and 8F to slap each other until one surrenders. When Jin Su gives up first, he gets tased. 1F realizes the game is rigged. He notices that during the coin toss, 4F can feel the embossed coin with her palm and flip it to the side called by 6F. Angered, 1F, 2F, and Jin Su share their theory with 7F, who already knows that 4F and 8F have been using acetone to make the king ball sticky and easier to pick. One day, he catches 4F and advises her to play fair to avoid getting caught. The next day, 1F becomes the king and dares 7F and 8F to a coin toss. He instructs 4F to catch the coin on the back of her hand, preventing her from flipping it to the side 8F calls. Jin Su views it as karma when 8F loses. However, just as 7F is about to tase 8F, 6F kicks him and tases him instead, declaring that it's time for a plot twist. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave 1,000 likes or 100 comments if you'd like us to continue part 2. Thank you.